Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Amigos, Everything Amiga Show. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, Amiga Aaron, joined this week by special fill-in guest star. It's the Brent.
It's me. Thanks for having me. I am at that.
Yeah, well said, the Brent. Listen,
Thank you.
I want to mention that our good buddy, the Boat, is on assignment in Texas, if of all places. He's taking care of business down there, but he should be back next week. So thankfully, the Brent hopped in at the last minute to fill in for us this week. This is a special Valentine's Day edition of Amigos. We're taping this on Valentine's Day, and nothing says I love you like a good old-fashioned graphical text adventure game, which we get into a little bit later. But Brent, before we got into this, I wanted to ask you a little bit because, we sort of represent both sides of this special day, Valentine's Day. You, of all people, represent the loving, happy-spirited man who has a lovely wife or girlfriend and that you love and respect and treats you good. And then you've got me, a happy-go-lucky bachelor. What's it like, Brent, now to have that special relationship with a lady, and what did you do to celebrate that on Valentine's Day?
Well, I worked on a computer all day, and she did homework.
Man, that is true romance, if I've ever heard it. I will say, much like the Boat, Brent has a very special lady, very wonderful relationship, and I'm going to flip the coin here. I'm kind of going solo, lone wolf style, but I have a special lady too. And that special lady is my good friend Woodford Reserve. Beautiful, brownest of the brown bourbons from the bluegrass state of Kentucky. I'll be sipping this while watching Netflix on the couch later tonight. And I'll be crying into my booze, as they say. Speaking of crying, Brent, are you ready to get into this week's game?
No, I don't want to do it.
You got to give Jinxter credit, because at least it's one of the few...
No, I don't.
It's one of the few graphical text games that has a love theme at the beginning. It's a pretty decent little tune, I think, to Brent. So let's talk about Jinxter. This originally, before it was released, the pre-release name on this, by the way, Green Magic. Green Magic! This was released in 88. 88. You're getting up there for text adventure games. This one was developed by an outfit called Magnetic Scrolls. Now, Magnetic Scrolls, they had a flurry of pretty well-received graphical text games. And probably the biggest one they ever did was called The Pond, which is one I've heard quite a bit about. They also did a Corruption, one simply titled Fish, with an exclamation point, Guild of Thieves, Myth, and Wonderland. This was published by Rainbird. We just talked about Rainbird a couple weeks ago. Amongst the many offerings that they had on the Amiga were Carrier, Command, Midwinter, the Star Glider series, Weird Dreams. They did quite a few what I would consider middle of the road to a little more than that on the Amiga. This was coded by Paul Findley, who worked at Myth and Wonderland. The story was sort of a co-production between a fellow. Firstly, we'll talk about one of the fellows, which is Michael Bywater. Now, not being a British fellow, in case you didn't know that, I wasn't familiar with this gentleman, but apparently he's fairly well known in the UK. He was a writer and broadcaster, and he wrote for periodicals. I know he wrote for a magazine called Punch, which I read about. Punch was around for a long time. I don't know how long he wrote for it, but he did write for it. He also worked on several games. I'd heard about this game and never saw it. And the reason is it never got released. But he worked on a game called Milliways, the restaurant at the end of the universe, with Douglas Adams. And that game was never released. That was going to come out from Infocom. But if you know anything about Douglas Adams, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Milliways is in that. He also worked with Douglas Adams on a game called Bureaucracy, which I have heard about. This game was co-written, or sort of, by Anita Sinclair, who was a staple there at Magnetic Scrolls. So, from what I've read, there was some sort of falling out during the making of this game, and at the end of it, some of it was hastily rewritten. And I don't know exactly. I tried to find some details on exactly what the fallout was, and I never really found a complete picture of what it was. I read some interviews with the lady, and I could not find, with Anita Sinclair. I could not. They were pre whatever this was. So, and she seemed pretty happy when she did these interviews, but I don't know, something went south or whatnot. But she was the other writer of this particular effort. The graphics on this were done by Jeff Quilley, who worked on quite a few of the ones we mentioned earlier, and the music was done by John Molly. This is an OCS game. This is, of course, mouse and keyboard when you play this one. This one also got many, many conversions, the Brent. That's a good thing about a text game, right? You just stick them everywhere, and it doesn't cost that much to do it, you know what I mean?
You just have to redo a few graphics, and you're pretty much done.
Yeah, man. Apparently they had this engine that they used, and you can see it in several of the games, was a multi-system engine, sort of like what Infocom came up with. In fact, Infocom was the inspiration for the entire creation of this developer. But this came out on the Archimedes, the Amstrad, the Apple Mac, the Apple II, the Atari 8-bit line, the ST, and the C64 line, and DOS and the ZX. So pretty much it hit everything. They pretty much blanketed the 8-bits and touched into the 16-bits there as well. This game comes up with a jaunty little tune, and then you join your character on a bus. And this is where you are starting in the game, and you've got your interface here. Brent, what did you think of the way this thing is laid out? This has sort of an interesting interface, I thought. I mean, it doesn't really do much, but you can sort of pull the picture down and move it around. What did you think about the way that was set up?
I actually did not like it. And the
Why?
reason why, it took me a while to understand that you could pull the picture up. And the default position is like 3 lines of text and huge picture. So I struggled with that because, I mean, it's very odd. Once I got my head around
you can move the
it,
picture around, you know, you can move it up and down.
yeah. Once I got my head around it, that aspect of it was fine.
So you were okay with it. You could also change the text size. You could save the game.
Yeah, and there's actually quite a few options with the style of text, which was nice because the default text is horrible.
Well, yeah. And I will say I had having the benefit of playing this on the Mister. By the way, I couldn't get this to work just outright on my Mister. I had to go back and fire up the Mister under Workbench 1.2, and then I got it working. I think a 1.3 will work too. This game also, I should mention this before we get too deep into it. This game came with a bunch of extra accoutrements, as these things want to do. The brand, it had a whole bunch of extra stuff with it, and a couple of the extra things it came with were sort of mandatory. Especially I believe it came with like a beer mat, and I know it came with like a letter, and the letter is absolutely mandatory because at a point in the game they tell you to read the message, and it doesn't tell you what the message is. So I guess this was their attempt at copy protection. It's irritating to me, frankly, that this text game won't give you the text of this letter. But really the letter itself, I looked at an actual copy of the letter they send, and it's got little doodles on it and stuff written in the margins, and a coffee stain. So they tried to make it realistic, looking like a well-worn letter. But I guess that's the way they had to do it back in '88 because they were worried about copy protection. So as I mentioned, this game starts off with your character on a bus. So when you picked into this, it's funny when you start a text adventure. You never really know what to expect, and you don't know what kind of adventure you're going to have. Is this going to be something that holds your hand? Are they going to throw you into the fire? Are you going to be repeating the same stuff over and over? Like, what are the rules? And so you have to sort of ease your way in. And I will say, I'm not going to lie to you, text adventures are not my strong suit. I've never been a big fan Even when I was younger, this is all we had to play. I still didn't like them that much, but I still played them a little bit, so I know just enough to be dangerous. When this thing started out, bro, what was your approach, and how did you get? How was the going early on?
Well, like you said, you try to feel a game out and find out what it's expecting you to do. Unfortunately, this game, it has you, no spoilers, but here comes some spoilers. It has you do nothing for literally the first 3 or 4 moves of the game. And when I say do nothing, I mean you actually have to type wait, wait, wait.
How did you figure that
And
out exactly?
I ran out of things to try. And if you try to do things, it will advance time. You were on the bus. Look bus. Look passengers. Trying to what's in my inventory. Maybe there's something there that'll help me. And it's really difficult to wrap your head around. You just started this brand new game, and it literally wants you to sit there for the first 4 or 5 actions, take one action, take one more action, and then tell it to wait 4 or 5 more times. It was incredibly frustrating to figure that out.
I would never have figured it out. So first thing I had to do was instantly cheat, just to get past
Wow.
anything. Yeah. So this is listen. Full disclosure, I'm not going to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I never think to do that ever in any game where you're supposed to type wait, because one would assume things will just happen, or they can at least have like a clock that goes by, so you'll know what's the time means something. Because how was I supposed to know that time even meant anything? Some
Yeah.
games it doesn't, some games it does. So that was the first thing I had to cheat on, because I sat on that bus, and you're right, time does advance. But I didn't know what I could do to not just have to sit there and screw around. I wanted something to happen. I thought to myself, my God, I'm out of the gate, and I really don't know what I'm doing. So once you maneuver your way through the bus situation, the game well and truly kicks off, because once you depart the bus, you're almost ran over by a car.
No,
And
you are ran over by a
well, you are
car.
hit by. Well, we'll get to that. But you're at least in the opening, it appears that you've been yanked off the front of the car by a guy who's eating a cheese sandwich, and he goes on to tell you his long and sordid and flowery tale about what's going on in this game. And this is really the entire plot of the game is sort of spelled out for you here. So, and I'm not going to get as flowery. It's just I'll talk about how this is delivered here in a minute. But when you are yanked out of the way of the car, this fellow, you find out, is like a guy called a guardian. Okay, and he is representing a group of, I guess, sort of like godlike creatures who are responsible for I don't know, various things. But one of the things they're responsible for is the luck and the probability in the universe. And there is a bracelet with charms on it that is in the protection of some witches who have decided to forego the having of this. They get rid of the charms. They can do bad stuff, and this thing governs luck in the universe. And the charms, as the charms are removed from the bracelet, luck goes away. All right, and so your goal in this is to recover and bring this back. And they pick you, a mere mortal, to do this task. Okay, and now listen, there's a lot more flowery baloney, but I think I hit the high spots there, didn't I, the Brent, as to what you're supposed to do. You have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's pretty much it. It's so overproduced, his speech, that you're wondering if there's clues in there, and there really isn't. Maybe there is way later in the game. But I mean, it's long. It is a long do nothing speech.
Yeah. So while we're here, let's talk about the actual dialogue in this game. This is some flowery dialogue, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, I know for a fact that this is a game absolutely directed at the British folk. This one, for an American, I feel like I'm fairly well versed in a lot of the British slang and whatnot. But this one even tested the limits of my abilities. Plus, it's just not. It takes an hour to say something that should take 5 minutes. I mean, there's just a lot of descriptive baloney and a lot of like stuff played for laughs that I can't tell if it's funny or not. Did you? What was your impression of Brand?
The game loves to waste time. It loves to waste time. Even when, so at the beginning of the game, you're on the bus. This is something I want to bring up, a particular gameplay part. And a ticket collector gets on the bus, and he's heading towards your character to get the ticket. So you're typing wait, you're typing wait, you're typing wait, and he finally asks for the ticket. And if you just put give ticket, the game's like, well, who do you want to give the ticket to? It's like, well, the guy just, talked to me. Obviously, it's the only NPC in the room, basically. That's who I want to give the ticket to. But you have to put inspector. And he takes the ticket, he looks at it and gives it back to you. It's just crap like that I'm sure this is a very in-depth engine because I know it's gotten lots of praise, but it makes you do everything. It gives you no leeway at all. If you pick up something and look at it or something, or unlock a door, perfect example. You have to unlock the door. You have to tell it what key to unlock the door with. And then after you unlock the door, you have to open the door. And I get that can be gameplay elements down the line. Maybe you want to just unlock the door and not open it. But when you're playing it and you're just trying to advance anywhere into the game, it's so frustrating.
You brought something up, but then I was gonna get to eventually, but I'll go ahead and address it now. And by the way, this wasn't popular. All the magazine reviews I read of this, they brought up that the parser was irritating, and this is one of the things they brought up. Um, just to like for example, there's a scene where I wanted to open a refrigerator door. You've got to look at the fridge, open the door. Go look inside the fridge, close the door. If I want to go out, here's another one that really got me. I want to go out the back door. You're not at the back door. I go to the door. The door is locked. Unlock door. Unlock door with what key? Which key? You're going through all these things. Then once you've got the door unlocked, then you've got to open the door. You got to go through the door. You got to close the door. Too much, and it's pointless. And it does take too much time sitting around and doing this. And by the time, because here's the thing, I've got the key. I know that and it's my door, and all I want to do is leave through the back door. If I've got that already, I should have to go through all that rigmarole. Something else with the inspector on the bus is a good example. It's like I see the inspector come and give ticket. He's not here yet. I've got to wait for it to come up to me. I've got to wait. Then I've got to give inspector, give what? Give ticket, blah, over and over. That's the kind of crap that's old school. And I'm not gonna take points off for that. It's just the way some of these parsers work, But I mean, we played a game a couple years ago, Brett. I think it was on the maybe on the ZX, but it was a really advanced, complicated text game. And I will say that thing was a lot smarter than this one was. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was a heck of a lot easier to get around than that one than it is in this one. This one is just like the old days. Everything it takes forever. Of course, you also need to take a scratch piece of paper and write down where you're going. Write down all the different branching paths. Once you get off the bus and you're well on your way, then it really sort of falls into the classic category of these sorts of games. You go into the house, then you start searching for stuff. Then you start picking everything up because you never know what you're going to need. Do you need the can opener? Do you need the bottle of milk? You pick it all up. The funny thing is, I don't know how far you got into this, the brand, but I went through the house. I thought I picked everything up, and then I got to the bull, and I could not get past this bull to save my life. And I tried and tried and tried. I kid you not, I spent a good solid hour trying to figure out what I missed before I realized that I had to go back into the house and get like a tablecloth so I could pull it, so I could put it in the bull's face to get past him. And of course, I couldn't figure that out. Too dumb. And so when you miss stuff like that, it takes forever. How about you?
Here's the thing. It would be different if the game said you're standing in a kitchen, there's a table with a tablecloth over here, there's a refrigerator over here, there's a counter with some things on it. No, it doesn't do that. It's just like you're in a kitchen.
Yeah, it's old
and
school.
It's like, okay. And you might think, well, what would be in a kitchen, right? And that's what it's wanting you to do. It's wanting you to think, what would normally be in a kitchen? Well, maybe the 80s, they all use tablecloths, but I haven't seen a tablecloth on a kitchen table for, 20 years. But even past that,
we're bums. That's why. Most refined people, they put those on there. We're too bums.
I don't agree with that.
You never get past the bull who's behind your house.
It gives you so much detail and also gives you no detail. It's so frustrating. I got to the bull, and I collected everything in the world, and I was doing things that I thought made sense to me. I was trying to feed the bull, which it lets you do. Yeah. Like I fed him.
I did that too.
Briars. I fed him milk, and then I said, you know what? Screw all this. I played this game for 90 minutes and made it exactly to where you were. 90 minutes. Okay. Yeah.
It took me longer
I just started getting stupid. I took off all my clothes. I ate the bus ticket. I restarted the game and ate the bus ticket in front of the inspector. But the game doesn't care. The game doesn't do anything with that kind of play. And I was even more annoyed because I thought, well, maybe I could at least have fun with this. And here's another kicker. This also really annoyed me. The game only has so many pictures, and not every scene has a picture. However, when you go to a scene that does have a picture, that picture might linger 2 or 3 rooms past where you're at. So it might still be showing you the kitchen area, but you're in the bedroom. It's so annoying. Because if you lose track,
you can push the window up over the picture so you can't see it. You got that option.
No, that's bad. Either have a picture for every room or every, scenario, or don't have pictures that linger. When you go to another room, take the picture away. Because that was another thing. I kept looking at the picture thinking maybe there's a clue in this picture that I'm supposed to see. And it was never, ever the case. I was so frustrated at this game, and I waste a ton of my life. I understand I'm here on this planet for a finite amount of time, and I waste a lot of time. But I was so angry that Jinxter stole this time from me, and it's your fault.
It's both fault, not mine.
I got actually angry. I text
you sent me an angry message.
Of how angry I was. It was ridiculous.
He sent me a very angry message too. And I was like, why are you yelling at me? I didn't do it. Here's the thing. The Brent and everybody. This is a game of its really, it's not even of its era. It's a game of several years before its era. Because by 88, holy smokes, there was a lot of stuff but people still like a good text adventure today, right? And I will say, if this is the sort of game that interests you, there are multiple versions. I believe there's a version
help.
One. What's that?
If this is a game that interests you, seek help.
No. There are
so many better text adventures out there that don't waste your time. Tell a better story. Although I'll be completely honest, I couldn't even watch a video of the story play out to see how good the story got because it was so blasted boring. It definitely does not grab your attention. It doesn't take you scene from scene, making you want to find out what's next. it just drops you in a world, and the world is boring, and one thing happens that's exciting, and then you're bored for another half an hour. I just hated it.
I'm gonna come to the rescue just a little bit, okay? Just hear me out. This game has a lot of. This game hinges on good humor, okay?
What?
Hold on, let me finish. It's not humor aimed at you. It may not be. There may not be the cultural abilities there for people like simple country folk like ourselves to enjoy this humor on the level that it's shown to us. It also, again, it's a game for people that are really into this sort of puzzle. They like the puzzle elements of this sort of game, and they like that. They like to figure this stuff out, and this is what they like. There are modern equivalencies to this game. They've taken this game, and I believe you can pick this up. I don't know if you can pick it up on Steam or iOS, but there are versions of this game that they have built-in inventory and built-in auto mapping. A bunch of the games for Magnetic Scrolls are available like this. You can also play this game online in a browser right now with some modern additions to it. So this game it was popular enough to have people that still want to play it on various systems. And again, I think a lot of these things are lost on us. But plus, I know you're not the biggest fan of games that involve reading and whatnot, given your problems you have there.
I just spent 7 hours yesterday playing Keep Driving, which is a glorified text adventure or point and click text adventure. So no, if you make it interesting, I will stick around. But this game was so slow, so boring, and had so many flaws. It has no redeeming qualities. And if this is your favorite game, I don't know who would be out there that would say that, but if this is your favorite game, please, I want to understand what makes it good, because right now I don't.
Well, a lot of people enjoyed this game back in the day because not only did it receive fairly decent reviews, but it also was well received today, because in our Discord we got a couple of reviews on this. Let's get into it right now since we're talking about them. First out of the gate, I want to talk about our good buddy Pajaka, who he's always around. Brett, he's always filing these things. Pajako chimes in. I find I am more in love with the idea of playing text adventures, than playing them. So he means the idea of doing it is more fun than the act. Jinxter has been on my to-play list for years, and I try to play it once in a while, and then inevitably give up after a short while. Overall, what we get here is a humor-filled quest to a semi-fantasy land with parser that isn't too painful to use and some customizable options, so all good there. But the game itself is not great, and not because it's a text adventure. Some of the puzzles seem to be a guess what the designer is thinking. Sometimes I felt the game was just being mean, and at one point an actual text-based sliding block puzzle appeared, which is painful to play. I didn't get that far. Also remember Al's lore, save early, save often, as you can get stuck at points and can't continue, and draw a freaking map. The opening tune on this always takes me to my happy place. You can enable speech, which is worth it just to hear mispronounced words and say sound effects. Press the button, ding. Let me tell you something. That didn't stay on but a second. I was like, I'm not doing that. Graphically, as you would expect, there isn't much, but colorful art scattered throughout the game gives it more charm. Owning the box copy of this with all the feelings is a joy, and makes the game more interactive, as you can look through the newspaper that is not only the annoying copy protection, but also gives clues when needed. A lot of detail went into the feelies, so they are worth a good look outside of the game. Jinxter is very much of its time, which is not a bad thing, but it might have a high barrier for entry to newcomers. 7 out of 10, Brent, on that. So clearly he was a fan. If we move over to our buddies over at Lemon gives us a score of 8.24, which is a pretty lofty score. And the people over at the Hall of Light, the lower score, this was 72%. The contemporary reviews of the day were somewhere in that ballpark. Amiga Computing gave this a 70%, AUI down in Australia gave this a 70%. The Games Machine gave this a 92%. So the average magazine rating on this one was a B. A B, the Brent. What do you think about that? When you hear that, is that not what you expected, or is that exactly what you expected?
This is one of those games, and I'm not saying this happened, but this is one of those games when it gets into reviewers' hands. I think they have an obligation, or feel they have an obligation, to give it a decent score. It's like, oh, I remember text adventures. I'm going to play a text adventure and I'm going to love it, and everyone's going to be happy about text adventures again. I don't see it. There are other text adventures, and I don't play a lot of them, but there are other text adventures out there that are so much more entertaining than this. If there are jokes being told, maybe I didn't get to the jokes. Maybe the jokes were not in line with, my cultural upbringing or my nationality. Okay, fine. I'm cool with that. If I don't get it, I don't get it. That's fine. But there is no excuse for the game to continuously make you jump through hoops on how you unlock a door, or how you open a door, or how you open a mailbox. It's just ridiculous. There are so many little flaws that stack up on this. And if you have flaws in a text adventure, one of the easiest things to get right from a technical standpoint, your story has to be absolutely great. And I was not pulled in with this. Maybe you were, I was not. I don't get it. I don't get it.
It does take a while for the story to kick in once you have that initial encounter. Because really, I didn't get the story to kick back in until I finally got to my buddy's house, and that was pretty much that was the end of it for me. Yeah, it does take a while. You'll also be happy to know, the Brent, that this did win an award, and I think I know why. I'm not gonna divulge it to the folks. I'll let you guys figure it out if you want to know. But Computer Gaming World, November of '96, the 15th anniversary issue, gave this game that we're playing this week, Jinxter, they rated it number 14 in the least rewarding ending of all time. So of all the games in the 15 years of Computer Gaming World, this had the 14th worst ending of any of them. So, and I know what the ending is. I heard a lot of people complain about the ending in this game. So I'll let you figure that out for yourselves if that's something you want to look into. I looked at the.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, Aaron. I want to try to guess it. And if I'm right, you can say I'm right, and just say spoilers before you say.
Okay.
Is it all a? Is it all a? Not dream, but a where you relive your life real quick. One of those near-death experience things, and he actually gets hit by the bus.
Well, spoiler alert, everybody. Turn your radio down now. But, yes, he gets hit by the bus and dies at the end. As soon as he finishes the adventure, that's how the game ends. So, spoiler over. You go. So, Brent is now having a slight conniption. That's nice. That's good. The game has caused you pain. So, I'll give that an extra point right there. If you wanted to pick this up, Brent, let's say you wanted to go to eBay right now with some of your hard-earned Brent bucks and go pick this.
I could burn it in effigy.
You could. You can get this complete in box for the low bargain basement price of between $75 and $89. But if you wanted to get real funky, you could get. I saw two sealed copies on sale. One for a meager $174. But if you want to be a big spender, you could pick up the completely sealed, just like new, box copy of Jinxter for $1,555 fun bucks. Those are US dollar bills. So I suggest everyone go count their pennies and pick up your copy today.
If anyone does that, I have some Aaron crazy honey hive right here.
Yeah, you're crazy.
I will sell it to you for $1,200.
Very good. What a steal.
I'm that generous.
Hey, Brent, I'm going to give you the final word
Idiots.
on Jinxter here. Give us your final departing thought.
It stinks.
Welcome to Retro Rewind. I'm your host, British Jones. Whether you're into the Amiga, Commodore 64, or Tiger floral print speed suits, Retro Rewind has all you need from the friendly hosers of the Great White North. Looking to upgrade your Amiga? Check out the Amiga OS 3.2.2 Kickstart ROM for just $18. Or maybe you need a C64 or C128 diagnostic harness. Grab one while they're hot. Don't miss our best sellers like the 1541 Transit Card for just $1, or the incredible Amiga Coin Cell Battery Adapter. Shop now at Retro Rewind Limited and bring your classic computers back to life. Retro Rewind Limited. Frank's the man.
All right, everybody. It's news time. Let's crank up the robot. Yeah.
Amiga News.
You know it's time when the gamble train kicks into view. So, normally I don't do the news. That's a boat gig, brother. I'm too busy doing other stuff. But this week I got to go and look around. So I've got a whole bumper crop of newsaroo here. We're gonna go do this at rocket lightning speed. The Brit, are you ready to go? Here's some news from IS2 Scooby, our good buddy. Look what we got right here, the Brent. It's a mechanical keyboard for the Amiga 1200. They're locked, cocked, and ready to rock at the Amiga store. That's amigosretogaming.eu, Brent.
Pretty good.
They'll run you.
Holy moly, that's expensive.
Well, listen. I was going to get to the price. You're talking 185 euros, which that's probably about 210, 12 bucks. Who knows what the US dollar amount of that is? It's a ton. But it's a mechanical keyboard. You can cherry out your Amiga 1200. You can be the King Dong with this bad boy. And I do love mechanical keyboards. What's your upper limit on a mechanical keyboard, the Brent?
I paid about $200 for the keyboard I've got.
Right. So why did you go, oh, God, no? It's the same price.
Well, this is wireless. It's light as a feather.
No wires. This has no wires. It's got one ribbon cable. That's it. And you're in. It's got not wire one. Just put it right inside your Amiga.
I didn't have to assemble mine much.
There you go. So I think that's not. I mean, listen. Everything on the Amiga costs top dollar. You know why? It's a top dollar
that's
machine.
True.
And everyone that owns this Amiga is as rich as Rockefeller. Now, here's something. We've got some buddies. We've got some special friends over at Amiga Addict magazine, the Brent. And by God, they're at it again this month with another edition of the big dog. This is issue 36 here. Let's see what they got here. Of course, you get free software cover disc. Look at these games you get, the Brent. They're going to be. They've got Pang. They got Monty Python's Flying Circus. Remember that one? That's a pretty good game.
Yes, I do.
And the promising, this is something they mentioned here, the promising but never released Mega Race for the CD too. We played that on other machines, Mega Race. It stinks, but still. You've got an interview with former Amiga format and the one Andy Nuttall. Even I know who that is, Brent. You've got some demo scene book review here, demo scene the Amiga Renaissance. That looked like a good book. And a whole flurry of other goodies. So, please, I beseech you, if you've got 185 euros to spend on a mechanical keyboard for your 1200, surely you could throw a couple buckaroos to your good buddies over at Amiga Addict. For £7, you're in like Flynn. And they've also got digital versions that you could get. What's your thoughts on the old Amiga Addict, right? You flipped through a few of these.
I have, and been in a few. I love physical media like this. I love physical media like this.
Yeah.
Physical game boxes, I mean, I get the appeal. That's not really me, though, because I don't have a place to display them.
Yeah.
But magazines and books and stuff like that, it's fun to be able to just pick it up, flip through it, read an article or two, put it down, come back to it later. I would have much rather flip through the latest issue of Amiga Addict than play the game that we just played.
Would you stop comparing everything to that game you hated? Come on. All right, so Amiga Addict, pick your issue up today. By the way, Pixel Addict, also good. let's move along here. So, I got to go look around to see some of the some videos that we hadn't caught before, and I love this one, to Brent. This is a fellow. This video is called "Playing the Top 10 Amiga 600 Games." Well, 8 of them, while my son reviews them. And this is a fellow who goes through the top 10, and his son, who's I think like 8 years old, he chimes in at the end of these to give like a 2 or 3 word summarization of what he liked and what he didn't like. I will say my favorite, he at the end of Shadow of the Beast, the kid puts this thing over like $1 million. He loved this, this game. So I thought this was great. And so I like the idea of a fellow playing Amiga games with his boy. That's the way it should be. I will occasionally demand that the Luke come in here, and then we'll sit down and play some games here. And we have played some Amiga games. Sometimes he helps me out on stuff. So I like this. Now, Brett, your kids are a little older. Did you ever demand that they come play games with you?
Well, I had an arcade in the basement for a while, and unfortunately, they were not on board. I mean, I get it. They grew up with more technologically advanced things, and I wasn't going to push it on them. They're both gamers, though, so take it where you can get it.
Super Tech Boy asked me if Luke had played Top Banana or Yolanda. I love my child, Super Tech Boy. There's no reason to subject him to those horrors. This is a guy who, this guy's not like a little YouTuber. He's a pretty well-established fellow, and he puts these videos out where he does like a little looks at games. Sometimes he'll look at like different versions of games. I watched this one this week. He looked at skid marks. Some people hate skid marks, and skid marks is a game where the controls are a little a little weird. But, I mean, it's a good-looking game, and I enjoyed his look at this. I haven't got to look at much of the cheeky Commodore Gamer stuff, but I did enjoy this, and I think he's a pretty big player. So if you're into the cheeky Commodore Gamer, you might want to check this out. Do you remember playing skid marks in the past, Brent?
I believe we dabbled with this in Amigathon.
I know we did, yeah.
I love this perspective driving games. Always loved RC Pro-Am when I was a little kid. Although controls make or break games like this, and if I remember correctly, the controls for skid marks were not great.
Yeah, well, they take some adjusting, that's for sure. Listen, this right here, we don't often enough talk about our network partners over at Pixel Guide In. I love these guys. You've got Sanction over there, and you've got Eric and Cody. Hold it down. They're giving you retro and retro-like games, the modern retro. And this right here, Cody is a guy, this guy never does anything video-wise. But this time around, a couple months ago, he happened to roll up to the Galloping Ghost. And he shoots and commentates over there. Look how handsome he is. And he's a singer, too. He does it all. He's really a three-tool player. But he goes through and commentates around at the Galloping Ghost, which we just heard from Mitsuyama, who's going to be visiting Galloping Ghost. Galloping Ghost, for those that don't know, is allegedly the biggest arcade on Earth, it's a massive arcade. Plus, added bonus, you will never be cold in the Galloping Ghost. It's hot. I went in there in the dead of winter in Chicago and was sweating my brains out. So you can imagine having 1,000 games on at once, what that's like. So this just popped up. It's over on the Pixel Guide In channel. If you get a chance, go check this out. You've never been up to the Galloping Ghost, have you, Brent?
I haven't. Yeah, it's one of the arcades that eventually I will go and visit. I know it's iconic, and they keep their games in good working order. That's why they, basically catch you on fire, because that's what the machines did back in the day.
Well, I will say this. When we were there, the games were in mostly good order, but they did have, when you've got this many games, you're bound to have some just go down.
Of course.
I played probably 10 that had problems, but I did play like probably 100 games that evening. So we had a good time at this arcade. So please go over to the Pixel Guide In channel on YouTube and subscribe. And then once you do that, check this video out. I think you'll be pleased with it. and they do some pretty good stuff. And Sanction's been doing a lot more stuff on video, so I think it would behoove you if you're into classic retro gaming stuff to check them out. And they run in a lot of the same circles that we do on ARG. They've got a ton of different weird old systems that they trot out. So if you're into that sort of thing, that might be your cup of tea, the Brent. Here's our old buddy, Chris Edwards. Everybody likes old crazy Chris Edwards, Repair King, the King Dong of Repair. This is a pretty simple one for Chris. He just toys around with an A500 that has some just a few issues. But the main thing I like is he gets a lot of good Australian snacks in the mail. Listen, the Indiana Jones thing, the lab coat, this dude's living the gimmick, the Brent. What do you think?
And we need lab coats.
No, we don't.
Torn
I've got
to
a lab
shred.
coat. I will say, I had a lab coat, and it was awesome. But then when we broke away from the cleaners at the lab, they took the lab coats. So now I've got a smock, and the smock sucks. You don't get chicks with a smock. I can tell you that right now. But anyway, if you're into the Chris Edwards thing, and who isn't, go check him out. He's always up to no good. I like this guy's style. I always have. Here's one we missed last week, but I wanted to touch on it, the Brent. I love the old Kim Justice. Kim Justice does some good stuff. And I actually sort of took a hand at a similar situation a couple of months ago in a disaster, probably last year, when I went through and played like the worst of the best, the bottom 20% of the games on Lemon. And she does something in the same vein, which is the worst rated games from Amiga format. And she starts at 20%, works her way down to 5%. And so you've got some real god-awful disasters in here. Some of our old friends are here. I recognize quite a few of these games from my various... you got your Rise of the Robots and your Akiras in here. Stuff like that. Last Action Hero, Tie Boxing. I've played a lot of these games. I'm a big fan of the duds. And the duds were on fire. So if you're to Kim Justice, and who isn't, go give that one a whirl. Next on the docket, Brand, this is the last one we've got, I think, for the evening. This is from a channel I've never heard of until this week. It's Just Jamie. Just Jamie, pretty good size following. Did a top 10 essential games to play on the Amiga. And I was kind of interested, the top 10 personal favorite essential games on the Amiga. Because I always like to see what people are going to pick. You know what I mean? And I will say, I didn't hate this list that Just Jamie put together. I don't want to spoil the whole list, but I will say Lionheart makes the cut. And you know what that means. That means that Just Jamie's got some brains. He's got Agony in there. I see Banshee in there. Ophidia's in there. Some pretty good stuff. If you had to make a personal, say, top 2 or 3 games that you dug on the Amiga, Brent, what would you have in your top 2 or 3?
Wings.
Yeah.
Lotus 3, and TV Sports Basketball.
Really? Lotus 3? Not Lotus 2?
No, Lotus 2. I'm sorry. Lotus 2.
I saved you right there. One more thing that just came over. We can thank Bode here. This is nice. Look at that, Brent. Just while we've been on the show, and once this show goes live, this may change, but our channel has finally hit the 8,000 subscribers. I can't believe it. We finally hit the big 8K, the Brent, on the Amigos Retro Gaming channel. Thanks, y'all, for subscribing to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, come on, do us a solid, brother, as we push ever closer to the big 10,000. I never thought we'd get to 8,000 subs, Brent. What does that number mean to you, brother?
It's an impressive number, but I think a number that's even more impressive, Aaron, is we have raised $6,458 for Children's Miracle Network this year.
Well, you're right. That's great.
And if anyone would like to donate, you can go to amigathon.com, and we will be collecting donations until the end of the year. If I remember correctly, Aaron, we are currently fourth of the highest grossing people for the Children's Miracle Network this year.
You're kidding me.
On Extra Life. Yeah. Well, that's the upside of having an early thing.
I will say this, much like The subscriber
Yeah, we are
count.
currently 4th.
Much like the subscriber count. I mean, I feel like the subscribers and the people that donated have done this not only as a charitable act for the Children's Miracle Network, but it's a charitable act to me, you, and Boat as they subscribe to the channel. It's like giving to charity. It's like, I mean, but we appreciate it. I'm happy and pleased as punch that that happened during the show. I think that's dandy, Britt. So thanks to everybody who subscribed to the YouTube channel. And boy, we never ask for it, but if you haven't subscribed and you like or even sort of tolerate what you hear, feel free to pop over and give us a sub. And I think we're going to have a lot of good action for the rest of the year. It should be a lot of fun. I think that tops out the news. I know that our good buddy Neil over at the, what was formerly the RMC, I think it's now the RC over there, Neil from Retro Man Cave, but it is current guys, has an Amiga video, but I haven't seen it yet, so we'll probably cover that in next week's news. But his stuff's always good, too. Always check out Neil, and check out Neil and Dave Velociraptor on This Week in Retro. Always a great show. We've both been on that show, the Brent, had a good time. Those guys are always very nice and welcoming. Why don't we see what we're playing next week, the Brent?
Ooh.
Oh, man. Well, folks,
Why was I this week?
It's wintertime out there, so it's a perfect time to ski or die. That should be ski and die if I was doing it. You know, I've actually played this one, so you know, Text Adventure's starting to look better, frankly. But
oh, come on!
I love it. Cool cover though, very 80s looking cover. That'll be next week. Ski or die. We'll be back in action next Friday. It'll be myself and John Buttercrusher. I'll be back in action. And we'd also like to invite you to tune in on Sundays at 6 p.m. for the Retro Rotation. Myself and the Brent, who host the heaviest shows over there. This week, we're going to be taking a look at R. Sinclair. I think we're doing Dark Scepter this week. And then usually we rotate between that, ARG Presents, the Atari ST show, and the Coco show. So you can catch us doing some wacky thing every Sunday, 6 p.m. Check us out. Same bat time, same bat channel. Brent, any parting thoughts before we take this thing to the house?
Nope.
Eloquent as ever. Good night, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Until next week, adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/AmigosPodcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.